Thank you. Good morning. No, I can introduce myself. That's no problem. Good morning. Good morning. Oh, what a lively bunch. Good morning. Good morning. Get everybody's attention. Okay, what a lively group. This is wonderful. So many people out here today. We welcome you. Didn't have the privilege. Can everybody hear me? Yes? Good. Okay. If I ever talk too fast, because I'm from the Midwest, or too low, I'll get the microphone up closer. You just put your hand up and give me a signal, okay? Because we want you to get the most out of the program today, and you have to be able to hear, right? So this is wonderful to see such a large group out. This is really encouraging. And I've heard a little bit from Brother Larry about the weekend, Friday night and Sabbath yesterday, and some of the classes. And I was really encouraged to hear about the enthusiasm of the group. I can tell it. So my name is Mary Fisher, and I work at Wildwood Lifestyle Center with a team of Larry and Brother Johnson and Jill. I work in the Lifestyle Center, and what else do I say? My background, I'm from Minnesota originally, and I've been in lifestyle medicine for probably since 1985, and had the privilege of learning some of the things that we'll talk about today, even before then. And I'm sure we can compare notes and share stories. And the most important thing is, if we're ever going to experience the truths of the things we'll learn today, we have to practice them. You know, it's easy to theory and see it, but God's going to give us opportunity to use it. And I'll just give an example before I have prayer here. And when we went to Cuba, we went with Dr. Grievous. He was a practitioner at Wildwood at the time, and a few other people. And a couple experiences we had there. When we would teach the students there at the seminary about the hydrotherapy, it was interesting how God gave them opportunity right away to use that. And many of the people were helped with fevers, and then we had another situation where actually one person in the group who suffered with terrible asthma, unfortunately, I was the culprit, but I locked the apartment and they didn't have the keys. And she had an asthmatic attack because they don't have good pollution control there, and she was behind one of the trucks, and she got a lot of, breathing a lot of these fumes. Well, she went into this asthmatic attack. Well, we got her doing a hot foot bath with what we call a cold poppement. I won't maybe go into detail about that particular treatment because it's an unusual one, but within 10 minutes or so, that whole asthmatic attack was aborted, and of course, through prayer, we're always combining this with prayer. So on that note, we will start with prayer. Just bow our heads. Our dearest Heavenly Father, Lord, we are so grateful to you because not only you're our Heavenly Father, but you're the divine physician. You're the great physician. And you know how these bodies are made. You created them. You know how the laws of them, and we want to understand these better in light of this beautiful treatments that you've given us. And I pray that each one would be inspired individually and also in their ministry to others to use this wonderful gift that you've given to our church and understanding so that we might be able to be your hands and feet and ultimately point them to you and to prepare them for your soon coming. So to that end, direct our time. Everything that's said and done will be honor and glorify you. In Jesus' name, amen. All right, so I'm just going to give you a little bit of background of my background. How many people here belong to this church? Can I see a show of hands? Seventh-day Adventists at our group. How about people from the community that are here to visit and to learn more about this area of hydrotherapy? Okay, very good. Welcome. We're glad that you're here. And for the others, I'm not sure what category you fit in, but we're glad that you're here. The reason why I'm asking that question and mentioning it to you, because I didn't grow up learning these things. But fortunately, I had parents and family that they weren't quick to pull out pills and medicine. You sort of suffered through your problems and diseases, or they shared what they knew. But I'm glad that we didn't go sort of down that track, because we know that can become a real issue. And we won't go into depths on that, and maybe Brother Larry's covered that, or maybe we can cover it in the future at another time. But basically, in my journey, spiritual journey, I lost faith. I was raised in a Christian home, and it was not of another faith, in Catholic home, and but I became basically an agnostic. But as I was working in my field of work, I was working in occupational therapy, and I was working with developing disabled children. And as I worked with them, and it was before this decision, I recognized I wasn't only working with their handicap, but I was working with all the medicines they were on and all the side effects. I was working with all the troubles that were in their home, that even though they were developing disabled, they were affecting that child. I realized that their diet was affecting them, and all these things, and I thought, I'm not even hardly touching my ability to help them with all these periphery things. We know, but a lot of times we see the problems in other people, but we don't see it in our life. And the Lord used that to try to bring me around, and eventually becoming a Christian, becoming a Seventh-day Adventist. I learned these things and the beauty of these things. And I'll have to say, I learned some basics. I didn't have maybe classes like this or knew they were available. So I would just pray, and I would just read things like, doing some treatments, and I'd say to my sister, who had mono at the time, I said, would you let me do this hydrotherapy treatment, or would you let me change your diet, or would you? And that's how I learned, good and bad, things you learn. And then later on had an opportunity, like you are, or maybe it has been presented to you about taking like an online course, or taking, training where you can learn more about these things, and then being able to use them overseas as a missionary, and so on. And I've asked Zion, and I've asked, I think, his sisters or brothers to remind me of the story as I go along into the treatments about these things. And I know we could all tell our war stories and all these different things, but we might not be able to share all examples in the given time that we've been given here. So I'm just going to go over some theories and help you to understand the importance of hydrotherapy. And there's a beautiful book, and if you have not read the book, I would encourage you to buy it, to get it online, but it's the book called Ministry of Healing. And it has many very good definitions about disease, okay? And it says disease is an effort of nature to rid the system from conditions that result from a violation of the laws of health. Very simple, okay? And I said to our lifestyle guests that were recently in our program, I said, I'll give you $1,000. I couldn't say I could give you $1 million because I don't have that. I'll give you that amount of money if you can prove any disease that you cannot trace that back to the truth of that statement. So I'm going to say it again. Disease is an effort of nature to rid the system from conditions that result from a violation of the laws of health, okay? And it says when we break these laws, and it's in this same book, it says we set up two things. Guess what they are? What did we just say? You got the answer. Disease conditions, okay, when we break these laws, and you won't believe about this one, unnatural cravings, okay? So that statement leads us back to the fact of like, okay, well, if we come back in obedience to these laws of health, we should what? See disease conditions decrease, and we should see unnatural cravings decrease, right? Might not come overnight. There is a suffering period, okay? And we don't like that suffering period, where maybe we're weaning off or discarding practices, but oftentimes that's the very thing that's going to help us not to go back to those practices, okay? And there's another statement in that same book when it says when disease comes, we should, number one, ascertain the cause. Well, we can't ascertain the cause if we don't really understand these laws of health, right? And you've gone over them well, right, in this time. What are they? Let's use the acronym New Start, okay? What does N represent? Nutrition. E, exercise. W, water. I can't spell. S, sunshine. T, temperance. A, good. R, T, trust in divine power. Okay, now, this is very important, and this comes to my mind. When Jesus healed in the Bible, or let's say the disciples were called upon to heal, let's say what incident happened where the father had the need of his son, right, to be delivered from this, I think it was unclean spirit or whatever. And did the disciples, they had that gift, right? What happened at that incident? They couldn't do it. Why? They had yielded to the enemy, right? They were harboring jealousy and so on. So why do I say this at this point? Because we can give you information here. You can apply that information and it might not result what you think. Because the healing comes from God. Even when Jesus said, when the woman was healed with the touch, he said what? Virtue hath gone out of me. That healing was from the Father, right? So we have to pray in faith for those that we treat. We have to pray, and we have to be in God's Spirit, right? But that might not, that just should have us sense our need and a sense to examine self continually, that we can be used to be a blessing and to direct people to him as a great physician. You follow me on that? Okay, so we always want to pray when we are doing these various treatments, because again, healing comes from him. All right, so let's go into some of this information. So hydrotherapy, what is it? The word hydro means what? Water. And therapy is self-defining, right? Treatments, different kinds of water treatments. Depending on where we are, what facilities we have, we may be limited. When we were in Cuba, we were limited in terms of certain accessibilities to things, but we learned to use what we had, okay? And that was a wet sheet pack, which I won't tell you what that treatment is per se, but that helped them to know how they could break a fever, they could help insomnia, they could do other things, and some other basics. Sometimes you don't have ice. You just have to work with what you have. You have to be adaptable. So basically it consists in the application of heat and cold to the water in 3 different forms. It can be in the solid form or vapor, okay? And you can use this internally or externally, okay? In treatment of trauma. Now, back to Ministry of Healing. So I encourage you, look again, read that book. But it says that when disease comes, we want to ascertain the cause. I'm sorry, I did not finish that statement. We want to rid or discard practices, contrary to these laws. And then we want to aid nature in the removal of the problem. And this is where we use hydrotherapy, where the Jill and the others taught about herbs. There's rational methods of treatment. Question, you're all good students out there. Are there irrational treatments available today? Are there treatments that are being what's the word? Thank you, permitted or it's like that, that are not based on rational science or physiology, the mind or the body? Yeah, there's lots out there. And we teach, it says there's 100 ways to practicing the healing arts, but there's one way God approves. Okay? So we want to find that one way, because guess what? You're going to hear a myriad of things out there, especially when you get into alternative treatments, natural treatments. People will come along and say, try this, try that, so on. Like my dad said, Mary, it's all about money. Sometimes, but oftentimes when you trace it, and then they're not rational, so then there may be affect the mind, in a worse condition, or the body. So we really want to weed out those things, okay? But in that third category, we talk aid nature and the removal. Hydrotherapy fits into that, rational hydrotherapy. The use of herbs, okay? Rational and the other methods, okay? We need to understand what those are intelligently. So, so we're going through this process, and you can see here solid, of course, ice, and we'll be doing in the demonstration an ice massage. Or cold water, vapor is steam. During COVID, I don't know how many of you got COVID, I got COVID too, and one of the things that was a big friend to me was steam inhalation. Did it, and hot and cold showers, and some of the simple herbs, and different Russian penicillin, and so on. So the remarkable properties of water, let's look at that. Water is a gift. You know how many countries, and I'm sure some of you have gone overseas, water is priceless. Okay? We take it for granted because we can turn on a faucet, but what about these people in Africa have to go get their water, or you go to places like I have in the Ukraine and it's all sulfur and smelly, and have you ever drank a glass of water with sulfur? Pleasant, okay? It's available, it's abundant, okay? It's a great absorbing and releasing heat. Has great solvent properties. One universal solvent. It's easy. And see, that's the treatments. When we know, we can present them to anybody and they can learn to do them in their home, okay? And you know, you can set up things in a cell center like you've for the years here in Benton, and you have your machines, but you can take those same treatments and modify treatments, okay? Oh, very good. Thank you. We know the chemical formula, but we cannot produce. Yes, he's our creator, right? Not, and it doesn't mean we shouldn't be careful in the way that we do these things. You know, it's not haphazard, but they're simple. But it gives up. And also there's proper viscosity. Okay? Also the temperature conducting capacity higher than the air. Isn't that interesting? Okay. So the human body at birth is 70% water. By the way, as we get older, guess what it can reduce to? 40%. Well, 40%. Okay, that's a voluntarily probably percentage. Many of us drink enough water. Oh, that's what I was going to say earlier. When you come across a person that's sick, yes, you're going to treat them, but guess what? You're going to be using that opportunity to ask them about those laws of health. How much water are you drinking? How much exercise are you getting? Because that's the bottom line. That's the foundation, like in a building. If they're not doing that, the treatments aren't going to be as effective. How many of you know Joe Gager? Hey, some of you, he's a physical therapist, worked in this area. And I remember Brother Joe, when he would see our guests at the Lifestyle Center, he'd see them near the end of the first week. And the guests would say, why didn't you have me see Joe in the beginning of the week? I was so helped, my back and everything like that. And so I was telling Brother Joe this, and he said, Mary, I don't want to see them in the beginning of the week. He says, they're not drinking enough water, their diet is terrible. By the time they get to the end of the week, you know, they're improved in such a way where they can benefit from the physical therapy more, okay? So going back to those laws of health, we want to use that time to educate, to question, you know, if we don't know their habits, because what? We want to teach what it says, what did they say about the fishermen? Give a man a fish and he can eat for a day. But you teach him how to fish. Okay, I'm not going to teach you how to fish, not figuratively or whatever, but then he can, live, right? So you want to teach, you want them to see that and to reason from cause to effect on these matters, okay? And you can tweak those laws of health. What do I mean by that? Let's say, you know, yes, I'm going to maybe use these rational treatments, but maybe I can get them to fast on a meal, you know, for one meal or something, or get them to exercise more, and you know, then the general things, so that when sickness comes, you can fine-tune those, you know, or look at each one of them. Okay, so yes, 70% water. Muscles and kidneys, 79. Lungs, 83. 70% on the brain and heart. Skin, 64% water, okay? And your bones, 30% water. And these are some other amazing water facts. Would you say this is true? I'd say so. Yeah, but I'd say water is the answer to a lot of things. Well, you have a headache. Well, how much water have you drank today? Or, well, what's your... Okay. Lack of water is the #1 trigger of daytime fatigue. You ever have someone tell you how I'm tired? That's what I'll say. Well, how much water did you drink today? Or if you're dizzy. That's... We talked about dizziness. Yes, there can be this calcification in the inner ear, but what about drinking? Okay. Eases back and joint pain in many people. So yes, we're talking about hydrotherapy today, but the importance of water drinking. Page. Can we afford that? No, we don't. Okay, so let's give a little bit of background regarding hydrotherapy. How long? About Hippocrates history. As early as talked about using hydrotherapy. John, along the spiritual lines, what about the use of water in treatment diseases in 1747? And by the way, for those not acquainted with the Adventist faith or those of our of the church here, that we have a long history of the use of hydrotherapy in what we call our sanitariums or what we call our lifestyle centers now, and treating people with the use of hydrotherapy. It says natural means used in accordance with God's will. Some of you can answer the rest of the supernatural results. So we work on the plan of addition. God works on the plan of multiplication. So many of our guests that come will see phenomenal results. And why? It's because God's multiplied that effect, okay? Now, this Vincent Prieshnich is his name. I think I'm saying it properly. You can. He's known as the father of farmer. He was uneducated, and uneducated in the world standpoint. It's more important to be educated God's way of higher education. He actually learned about the benefits of hydro is livestock. Okay, so you farmers have animals, think about that. When they were sick or injured, and he noted the success of these treatments, he started using them on himself and others. Okay, after some success, you never know where this is going to take you. Okay, and many scientists would make fun of this and well, no, not that part. The part I want to see my notes here. Do I do it with the? No. Oop, it's gone.
Wow.
No, not really. I got a Honda Civic out there.
Well,
it's up and down.
Two fingers,
Okay. Thank you. Okay.
Okay, there you go.
Okay, so after some success, he started his own hydro institute in Austria, and many scientists would make fun of this man because they believed it was nonsense. You should perk up your ears when some worldly scoffers say these things, because that's just the way the enemy can keep us away from truth many times. Okay, but guess what? They had to swallow their whatever. But after many years of success, many of them believed in the benefits of hydro and endorsed such treatments. This was the beginning of general hydrotherapy as we know it today. Okay. Oh, now we're... Oh, he's got these newfangled machines. Okay, so we gave you a little bit of background there. And it was in 1822. Now we know our first center, Health Reform Institution, or what they coined now, we're more familiar with Battle Creek Sanitarium, but much of hydrotherapy was used. And then you have books out by Dr. Kellogg, who was a physician at that time, on, and then you had people later on like Dr. Abbott and so on, where you may find it. You can find these books online if you're interested. Okay, and this, as one I mentioned before, he wrote many books, including a bunch of hydrotherapy books that are used for training, actually, hydro in Loma Linda College. Now, the physiology of the skin, this is the largest organ of our body. Have you ever thought about it that way? Okay, and it's used for our protection. We know when we get cut or something or some problem, that's an issue. It's a temperature regulation, sensation. This is a physiology of the skin. Secretion comes out of the skin, and your respiration, okay? It's 2 square meters, and let's just look at blood. The regulation of body temperature, supply of nutrition to the skin. The blood vessels are lined by a single layer of cells. There you might not be able to detect it, but that's the squamous cells. They can act like a filter by opening up the gaps between the cells. These are called interstitial spaces. Now, it doesn't take a college education. It's just good to know to appreciate the physiology. And by the way, I wanted to share a statement with you, and I couldn't find it, so I'm going to paraphrase it. But it says, before the time that religious liberty will be averted, and I feel like we are basically in that period of time, and it's escalating. It is very important for us to learn the physiology of the body, the care of the human frame, how to know diseases and to treat them, okay? And again, it's a work in progress for each one of us, but no matter what calling we have, if we're a mechanic, a farmer, retired, whatever, all of us should learn how to do these things. But it says, let me go back to this, the interstitial spaces, keeping red blood cells in, but letting out certain chemicals and waste. In this case, we see a white blood cell, that's what you're looking at, monocyte, that has trapped an enemy cell squeezing through this interstitial space to expel the unwanted substance, okay? And that's what you're seeing there, right there. So, all right, so these 3 categories of hot and cold treatments, we have stimulating ones. So if you have a person that's sluggish, you'll again look at their health habits, but then in the meantime, you don't let them suffer, right? You things that will help them. So stimulating treatments. There's other treatments that are exhausting. That's talking about in a negative way. That's just what you desire to have that experience. And then there's sedating hydrotherapy, okay? So it's good to know what you're using. Let's say if I have a certain person that I'm working with. Effects of rate of enzymatic activity, that means it increases the ability of the white blood cells to fight disease. It actually brings them out more into circulation. Circulation, there's another statement, I don't know if it's in that same book, where it says perfect health equals, it helps our circulation. Water drinking, exercise, we think affects our circulation. Yes, worry and depressed thoughts can make our circulation sluggish, okay? And this is a lysosome single crystal there. Increases the acidity of what I believe the steam inhalation did during this, use for COVID. Increases your circulation. And by the way, on that note, and I'm sure many of you, when this thing was at its height with the COVID pandemic, that we heard research out about how some sanitariums would treat with hygienic principles, sort of cutting in and out. Sorry. And did see death so on phone? Okay. Maybe it's a battery. Yeah.
Testing.
Okay, how's that sound? Okay, better. Thank you. May increase white blood cell count to 4 times normal. Isn't that wonderful? Okay. By the way, eating an animal-based diet increases your white blood cells, but in a negative way, to fight the infection in your body. Increases cellular oxidation. Increases cellular elimination of bacterial toxins, and stimulates muscular, glandular, and metabolic activities of internal organs and blood vessels. So we're going to give you some examples. I won't do this particular one today because it's a little bit more involved. And if you're into hydrotherapy, best for you to work with somebody that's knows it and can just do it. It's not that it's rocket science. It's just that it requires a little bit of gymnastic movement to do it, and a certain amount of order in what you're doing, okay? So we call it the general revulsive. That's not revulsion, revulsive, okay, to the chest. This is a very, very effective one for pneumonia, for bronchitis, for just general trying to strengthen the immune system. But let me look at, show you this one. Okay, so respiratory conditions, chest colds. Now, that one, you know, if it's going to advance to the chest and it's really bad, I might do it. It's pretty involved, so sometimes I might use some other kinds of hydro so that it's not as taxing on, you know, doing it. Excuse me. Influenza, bronchitis, like we said, the pneumonia. We had a doctor come. He's Dr. Opeka. He was a DO from Michigan, and he had bad pneumonia. He was over prison systems in Michigan. He was overtaxed. He's a very ambitious person, and he had 4 rounds of antibiotics, was not touching his pneumonia. He came down to the Lifestyle Center at Wildwood. I don't remember that days. I wasn't there at the time. But they treated him with this treatment, okay? And within a short period, Dr. Opeka was healed of the pneumonia. And he said if he ever, when he retired, he was going to come back to Wildwood and serve and give back to the Lord what he had recovered in coming there. But he became a very much, I'm sure, proponent of this treatment, okay? It's abdominal conditions. You can use it for pancreatitis and hepatitis and constipation. Again, I'm just going to show you a shortened version of it that you can use for that too, that how you make a fomentation, your own home one, okay? Fatigue, great toning up of the system and circulation as to relieve post-op pain and help prevent complications. We did the modified one on a lady that was a patient in our lifestyle center. She had to go up for, I think it was a hysterectomy. And she came back and was continuing to recover and do her program at Wildwood. So we put plastic over the surgical area, and then we did the hot and cold, of course, mild. When she went back to the doctor, the surgeon here in Chattanooga, because she's from the Greenville, Tennessee area, he couldn't believe it. He said, "This is the fastest healing surgery I have seen." And so that's the one I'll show you here as we switch up. Nervous conditions, depression, insomnia, anxiety, exhaustion, okay? And isn't that rampant now, right? Depression and the anxiety and so on. And there's other things you can do for it. So basically you can use a microwave, a toaster oven, you can use a kettle, but you know, to heat these things up, I'm going to just show you the microwave version, but it doesn't hold the heat as long as some of these other methods do. And it's good in each of your homes, like Jill, I'm sure was saying or inferring, to keep a box where you can pull these herbs out of, or where you can pull, you know, towels or the heating compresses out of it. And you can make your own home ones. You'll see I did a very basic things here that anyone has in their home, so that you have it right on hand. It's not a matter of like trying to jump around and find these things. They're all assembled for you, okay? And I'm going to skip over this one a little bit. This one we're going to demonstrate today. It's very familiar to everybody, but how many of us really use it when the problems come up on ourselves or others? We know it in theory, but let's practice it, okay? On that line, we had a lady. This is when I had first learned these things, and I was learning, did them overseas when we were missionaries. What's that? Oh, it's going to go dead. Oh, okay. So, anyways, this lady, she said she had a really bad headache. So I knew, okay, headache, hot foot bath, that works good. So I was busy with some of the other guests, and I set her up. We had prayer. And, oh, me of little faith. I thought, well, she come out of the bathroom, and I told her how to finish off the treatment. I thought she was going to say, okay, Mary, it's not working. What's next? And she came out. How's that? Okay. So back to this story. So when she came out of the bathroom after finishing this treatment, 20 minutes, half an hour, and this lady had a history of some really bad headaches. She said, Mary, it's gone. And I was shocked. I thought, wow, that's great. It strengthened my faith. So the hot foot bath, and we'll demonstrate what that is. But basically, you can use it for congestive headache. And when that means congested, a headache, no matter what, comes from some congestion of the blood in the area. It can be muscular. It can be from it can be withdrawing from, caffeine. It can be other things, okay? So you're just pulling that blood away from the head, decongesting it. Chest congestion. So when we get a colder like that, try the hot foot bath. Pelvic congestion for ladies with premenstrual symptoms or cramping during their menstrual periods. That's very good for that. To stop a nosebleed. Now, this is a little more involved than I would want for a nosebleed. I usually do some other simple thing by sticking up some wet cloth underneath the upper lip. Anxiety and stress. This is another good one. So maybe we'll do a real foot bath here. And if anybody's anxious or stressed, you can come do that. The common cold, okay, which we mentioned. One thing it doesn't mention up here, which I think I verbally told you, but is blood pressure. When we get a person over like 140 over 90 on their blood pressure, we'll be giving them a hot foot bath. And I've seen it lower the top number and the bottom number. It's not a long-term answer. You don't want to be taking hot foot baths all your life, right, for a thing. But while you're making the lifestyle changes, that's a way to get that under control. I have a personal story about that. My nephew, he came down with leukemia. In the treatment of it, he became brain damaged. Unfortunately, it's a long story. But I went with my sister up to the University of Minnesota, and the nurse came in, and she's, oh my, he couldn't talk at that point. She goes, oh, we've got to get him a pill to bring his blood pressure down. I thought, no, they've got him on so many medications with so many side effects. I told my sister when the nurse walked out, get me a basin of water. And we stuck Brian's feet in that hot water, keep his head cool. And then the nurse came in with this pill, about 20 minutes, half an hour later. And I said, would you take that blood pressure again? And she goes, oh my, it's down. I don't have to give him that pill. But, we're so quick to take a pill rather than why do these things gone out of practice for many of us? Or we didn't want to know them. Our grandma and grandma maybe practice these things because we take a little time and effort, and maybe we don't, feel like, oh, it's easier to take a pill or whatever. The Russian steam bath, and by the way, you can buy these now through Amazon, these different tanks that you can have in your home at not too high of a price, or you can make your own little thing with a, how many of you probably knew about Donna Shirley? Donna Shirley, go to the McDonald Road, 70th Adventist Church, but she did hydrotherapy equipment and everything, but she made basically, it was a shower curtain. You sit on a chair. She had you could put a tea kettle underneath, of course, not a metal chair, but wooden chair. You just put that shower cape around you, and you have your basically a homemade Russian steam bath. You know, it doesn't have to be complicated. And we've all seen these older ones, these Formica or whatever they're made out of, for your cold or flu detoxing, sedative effect, good for weight loss too. You see, this is similar to what she had set up there. And then the heating compress. I'm going to show you the simple heating compress. The week before, I got a cold virus, and it attacked me right in my throat, the worst sore throat I think I've had in my whole life. And just doing the heating compress that night and, you know, hitting it with some other things, saw that thing aborted. There's nothing worse than having a sore throat. I should say that's a terrible thing to say. Yeah, there's a lot of things worse. But, you know, we don't like it because we can't swallow, we don't enjoy our food, and so on. But you can use this heating compress principle on the chest, on the joints. We had the nursing home that I worked with, we had ladies with like very bad arthritis in their knees, and we would put these on their knees at night. In the morning, they had full movement. They had no pain. You know, just simple thing you could do at night. Okay, your contrast showers. He looks invigorated, doesn't he? Okay, simple ones. 1 minute. Well, this one is a longer extended treatment. 3 minutes of hot water, 30 seconds of cold, and you do 3 changes. This is one of the best treatments to boost your immune system, okay? If I don't have time for it in the morning and I'm still on the end of like maybe a cold, or maybe I've been around people sick, maybe just doing 1 minute of hot, 30 seconds of cool, and doing 3 changes. You know, it's enough to get your circulation going. We often do that with our guests that coming off of caffeine and they're used to that, you know, pickup. Well, do a pickup in a positive way, you know, in a good way to improve your immune system. So those are some basics hydros, and now we'll demonstrate them here. Either some in a dry run, what I call, which is like a real one, and maybe we'll do a wet one on some of the hot foot bath. And of course, we're all familiar with this verse, whosoever drinketh of the water that I shall give him shall never thirst, but the water that I shall give him shall be in him a well of water springing up into everlasting life. John 4:14. So he gives us the water of life. He's not he is not the water itself. Okay, he gives it to us, and we're to use it for his honor and glory. So what we're going to do, if we want to, do you want to do a little stretching? Yeah, okay. So you've been sitting for 45 minutes. So what we'll do is we'll do a little stretch, and then we will turn you around, and you'll face that way, and then we'll be doing the hydrotherapy demonstrations, okay? So if y'all stand up.
I think you better just do.
Right.
You don't want their food to burn.
Be on the mic.
That means you have thought about.
If everybody can have a seat now, we have a little break, and we'll start with the demonstrations. Okay, thank you for all turning around here. And we've got, going to do a little test on you all, see if you are good medical missionaries and you're listening. Okay, can everybody hear me? Okay. So remember when it says when disease comes, we want to do 3 basic things. Do you remember what they were? Number 1, we want to, pray, and for what particularly? To ascertain the cause, okay? And the way that we're basically able to understand that, even if we're not doctors, is to what? Know these laws of health, right? These basic things. You can question people. You can inquire. Okay, number 2, what do you want to do next? What's that? Yeah, rid the cause, rid or discard practices relative to those things. Again, that might not take quick results per se, but it's going to be lasting results for the person not to get the problem again, right? Because we don't want to keep on treating these things unnecessarily when it's caused by these other things. Now, thirdly, what do? Aid nature in the removal of these conditions. And what are some of those means that you can use to aid nature in this process? Hydrotherapy, like we're learning today. What's the basic foundation? The basic one. Yeah, look at the 8 laws of health, tweak those. Make more efforts in some of those areas. Okay, like I'll just give an example. Water, generally, how much water should people drink? Okay, 8 to 10 glasses, or half their body weight in ounces. There's different formulas, different conditions, you increase that. Well, let's say for a headache, you may increase that water and drink a glass of water every 10 minutes for 1 hour. You know that that's a remedy for a headache? You try it. I've tried it on a couple occasions for myself and others.
In surgery, whenever we would do surgery, if someone had an abdominal infection or something and we opened them up, we had to irrigate. And the rule was the solution to pollution is dilution. So when she said that much water, that made me think of that.
Amen. Thank you for sharing that. Okay. All right, so that's good. I just wanted to go over that and review this with you. And so we're going to look at a few things we mentioned today. You all have a handout that you've been given either by Jill or had gotten it another day. You need one? Do you have another one, Jill? Okay. We will just turn to the second page. If you do the back side of the page where it was massage, we're looking at ice massage. This says remember it in the solid form, it's an effective method of applying ice to an injury. The research regarding the use of ice on soft tissue injuries continues to support the following guidelines for icing an injury. Okay, and it says these steps result in the best treatment outcomes for many injuries. So how to perform it? Basically, you're getting a plastic cup, a styrofoam cup, paper cup. You're putting it in your freezer. It's good you just keep one in there all the time. I also encourage you to keep an ice bag in your refrigerator for different injuries. Generally our guests, even when they go out and exercise and they're not used to exercise, we'll have them come back and put on their joints 20 minutes the ice pack. And that really aborts the inflammation, which helps them to keep the momentum up with their exercise. So ice is a great item there. And is it, okay, I thought someone had a hand up. Oh, you did? Does it work if the injury is several days old? Ideally, just like a sprain, within 24 to 48 hours, do the ice, 20 minutes on, 20 minutes off. I can't help but think that it would still help it. So I would try it and see, because, I would do that. Okay, and like it says, ripping it down to a certain level so you can get a hold of it. Keep moving the ice in a circular motion. This is very important because you can get ice burn. Okay, so you don't want to do your treatment in such a way where it's going to cause the person harm. What is that saying in medicine? First, do no harm. Okay, so I'm going to have Robert or someone get the ice thing out of the freezer. Okay, and I guess Annie, she wants to be a patient up here, so she took her seat already. All right, yes. Thank you. Yes, spraying. Well, the spraying, if you can wrap that for 20 minutes and let it sit is probably best. Like this might be used for a sciatica. When you get sciatica down your leg and your disc is involved, when you can do that ice rub and you want to do it for 17 minutes, it will just generally take you 1 cup to get through about 17 minutes. And you keep on working it all on that spinal area, then that, my own personal experience, I had a ruptured disc like 25 years ago. I was in bed for 2.5 months. I'm glad the Lord didn't show me I was going to be in bed for 2.5 months. But day by day, and it was this that gave me pain relief, or I probably would have gotten hooked on narcotics because the pain level was so high. And they would do it on me, and you can do it on yourself, sitting on a toilet too, where the water can just drip into the toilet. So if you don't have somebody to help you and you're a little agile with your arms, go ahead and do that. But you got to keep it moving, and then it would free me from pain, severe pain, for like 5 hours at a time. No, I don't think necessarily for a tumor, but the pain, yeah, I know, you mean talking about the pain and the tumor? Sometimes with a tumor it's because it's impacting on a nerve, so I'm not sure about that one. But just going back to your sheets there, the counter indication is avoid rubbing ice over the bones. And so this is very good for bursitis, different conditions. All right, I know we don't have I'll just let you hold it. Like, let's say Annie did have a bursitis, so I'm just taking this ice off of here. Actually, I'll start from this end, it's the best. And of course, it's going to be a little rugged around the edges there. I'm going to end up peeling this a little bit more. Yeah, that's okay. So you can just get a washcloth. Okay. And I should have not put the washcloth in the water already, but it would be a dry washcloth. And let's say Addie just has her knee exposed here for the bursitis. So I'm just working away. And first you're going to have different stages. Okay, you're going to have of course, the cold. Then you're going to have the tingling or the burning, where people want you to stop. You want to keep on going. And then to the numbing stage. And that's when you really get the good effect. So you would just keep on working that. Of course, I don't have her, her clothes on there, and working on that area. It's right on the skin? Yes, right, all over the skin, okay? So you can do it, like I said, bursitis or the sciatica on the back, or various. So some things work better for like a ice bag, and then others for more of the ice rub, okay? So that's basically that. And as it melts, you're just pulling more and more off of it, or you can take the whole thing off, and you use it up within 17 minutes. And it's a very simple massage, very cheap, and gives you a lot of relief. Yeah. I heard Dr. Thomas, who was big into physical therapy and hydrotherapy out at our lifestyle center in California, he told about a policeman came with this problem, and he was doing it, and he said, he got to the point where, he wanted them to stop, and he'd say, I heard that you policemen, that you just, make up reasons to give people tickets, And this guy got so distracted in, giving them the answer that before he knew it, the treatment was all done, and, and he had it all fixed. So, and I remember Joyce Grievous, Dr. Grievous's wife, she said her children, when she would do these treatments on when they were young, and she would pray with them, she goes, they don't remember the uncomfortableness of it at times. They just remember the good times with their mother and those special times and the healing. So, okay, so that's the ice rub. I know it sounds very basic to you, but I wanted to show you the most basic ones, okay? Thank you. All right, so we're going to do the hot foot bath next. Either can we stimulate that, or does anyone have high blood pressure here, or you're stressed out or anxious?
You're not gonna do a rip.
I might. Volunteering you. You're going to do it on you. Okay. No. We're going to do a real one. Come on, jump up. Yeah. Okay. Now you have two options. You don't have to do it with the blanket on it, but if you want to do it like with a little bit more, sweating or, covering them for circulation, because sometimes when you're in a hurry or you want to make it more basic, you could just do it on the edge of a tub, have them sit there, put their feet in the hot water in a big bucket. And I would not encourage you to maybe use as shallow as one as this. Have like maybe your garbage can one at home that's like the 13-gallon. 5-gallon bucket, thank you, like that you've had maybe a big laundry detergent in or whatever. That way it's up almost on the top of the calf, and you're going to get even a better response. Now, there are certain indications, and be careful, and let's look at that if we can. I'm going to skip over, sorry, I'm not doing it in succession here. But if you turn to the next page on the back, it says a hot foot tub bath. And this is our policy things from our hydro department, so just excuse that. But it says the hot foot bath is given in conjunction with a cold compress to the head for 15 to 20 minutes. You can do it a little bit more lengthy, like maybe 30 minutes if you're using it to bring down the blood pressure. It is given at temperatures ranging from 100 to 115. If you are treating a diabetic, you don't want to go more than like 102 to 104 degrees. Why? Because they have vascular insufficiency, so they don't respond as another person would, and they can easily burn and stuff. So you want to, for a diabetic. Did I not say that? I'm sorry. For a diabetic. So you want to, just get a bath thermometer and have that so that you can measure that. And even if you don't have a bath thermometer, just use I've done that and put my just thermometer in that water and got the results. It is given to warm the body preparatory to tonic treatments. Like let's say you're doing other treatments where it's an elderly person's, they're not, got a lot of body weight or whatever. It's also to relieve congestive headaches, we mentioned, also chest or pelvic congestion, and to treat local inflammation of the feet. And it says the primary effect is to increase circulation to the feet and decrease congestion in the brain and internal organs. So you have, just one towel, 1 foot tub, and like it mentions there, 5 gallons ideally, a bath blanket, which we have here, a pitcher to add hot water, a cold compress, and ice water. This one says about iodine disinfectant. You don't have to. We're treating many people in a facility where we're just trying to be hygienic. A thermometer, hot water, plastic or rubber sheet if given in bed. Okay, if a person's infirm, you can do this while they're in the bed. So we would just have it down here, and we put down the blanket. You don't have to, as we said, use the blanket, but then we would put a sheet material over it. Robert, if you come up, we can use the microphone, and I can have Annie sit down in there. So you take your shoes off. Okay. So the person either is in their undergarments, or if it's just a blood pressure issue or a headache, you just have them stay in their own, in their garments. Okay. So I'm the helper. You don't have to help me.
I'm the patient helping myself.
Okay. So we're just wrapping them. Again, you don't have to have this, but if it's certain ones for certain treatments, you can. Now, I've already put water in here that's the right temperature for her. And then I've got hot water over here, very, very hot water, because you're going to be adding it to that or have excess. And then you've got your, the rug on the floor or the bath mat. I'll help you. That's okay.
I feel so much better. Can I help?
Yeah, that's good. Well, then we don't have to give you the treatment. Get up. You're healed. Okay, so we're putting the hot water in there, and then you're putting the blanket around. That's a little bit shy of these things. Yeah, ideally it would be a full wrap, okay? All right. And of course, you're praying with the person. Again, this is an opportunity to converse with them and ask them. Sometimes it's best not to be too talkative, depending on the problem or the condition of the situation. Sometimes it stresses out people more, at that point. So, as that water cools down, you are having the person, and this is important, you have them put their feet over to the side, and then you put that water in there and swish it around, and you say, when is it, is this hot enough for you? Thank you. Very responsive, yes. Okay. And then, of course, you're keeping cool over here. So within 5 minutes or so or less, you're just keeping their head cool. Now they're saying, well, I'm not sweating or I'm not hot. That's not the purpose of it, per se, is to help equalize the circulation, okay? So let's say that person had a headache, or let's say their blood pressure. So you're drawing that, you're dilating the blood vessels in the feet, and therefore it's pulling more and it's getting better circulation and improving these different conditions, okay? So you can either keep on applying that, to the person's forehead or to their neck, depending on and it depends on the person, would you like, sometimes you tell them, would you like that on your face, or you want me to just put it on your head? Okay, you could do that, or you can put it on the back of the neck or whatever. What would you like?
Whatever you please.
Okay.
That actually feels good.
Okay. All right. And yes.
This is such a great treatment, because everything that we do to the bottom of our feet affects all of our organs.
Okay, so after 20 minutes, half an hour, and you're continuing this process, can I put more hot water in there? You also might want to use an opportunity to get them to hydrate, okay, depending on the person. Because some people don't want to drink, they're going to have to get up and use the bathroom or whatever, but a lot of times, depending on what your situation is, you want them to hydrate. So you have a glass of water with like a straw, and they can drink, during this period of time. And then you finish off your treatment by just having either your cool water here, where you can lift their feet. And it's ideally, if they're in the bathtub, it's easy to run their water over their feet for 30 seconds of cool. You always want to think, too, in terms of the ease of showing them these things, that they'll repeat it again, or your ability to do it very simply, okay? So we're just lifting her feet, and then I'm taking that cool water and just pouring it over there for about 30 seconds. And then you just have the person, rest after that. Some of these treatments, I know it sounds elementary for people to go rest, like for 20 minutes, but you've got more white blood cell activity, you've got the response of the body, so you want the body to benefit from that, rather than going right into doing something else that's going to, interfere with that, okay? So, that is it.
Wow, I'm healed.
That's good. Okay, let's go. All right. So again, we wanted to show you these things in such a simple form that was very doable, okay? Another very beneficial one that's mentioned, and you can turn to the next page or right across the page, is called a heating throat compress, or a heating compress. Now, that fools many people because they think, oh, that's hot. okay, is not initially, okay? So I've done, again, some very basic things. I keep this in a little box in my bathroom, and it's just sheet material that I've cut off, and it's the circumference of my throat. Now, I could do the same thing for using a heating compress for my chest, like I could just make a patch of cloth. Another way to use that same principle for a heating compress for the chest, which you would use for bronchitis, asthma, chest condition from a viral condition, you would take a tight t-shirt, women or men's t-shirt, dip the chest part, which would include the front and the back, you're just dipping it in cold water, wringing it out, putting it over the person. So the cold is right here and the cold is in the back. And then you're putting you can take a Walmart plastic bag, depending on how big the person is, cut out, a neck part and an arm part. And then you can put, over that plastic bag, you put like a tight sweater. Okay, and so this now is cold initially, so what happens to the vessels right at the top of the skin? They constrict, right? So now this congestion that's caused from this inflammation and this condition is bringing in what? It's pushing out the old blood. It's bringing new blood in as it warms up. That's why it's called a heating compress. So we're going to dip this, and you dip it in cold water. Sorry again. All right. I want to do this on one of the young people. Okay. They're shying away. Oh, come on, it's fun.
It'll be fun. Who would like to come? Do you want to come? Oh, we got a hand. All right,
Okay,
thank
come on
you
up.
so much.
All right.
All right.
Annie can't get all
What
the
is your
treatments to
name
get
again?
well.
Cheyenne, thank you.
Thank you, Cheyenne. What a beautiful name. Okay, so you would do this in the case of what? What condition? Okay, sore throat, laryngitis. Okay. So you've got a cold item there. You just wring it out. Okay, and I'm going to have you just raise up your hair there. Okay. And then this is wrapped around, and like I said, it's about 1.5 sizes circumference. So you can do it for a knee. You can just keep these different cloths in your box in your bathroom, and then you'll be able to pull it out for yourself or for other people. Okay, so pretty cool, huh? Whoops. Sometimes if it's wet, it will sort of stick to the person's skin, ideally. Okay, there you go. And then I've done something very simple. What is this? It is a sock. Yeah, it's been washed. Thank you. Sorry, Cheyenne. Yeah, there's no more efficacious ability when it's dirty. Okay, and then you take that around. Now it should be wider than wider than the white cloth, because we don't want what we call a wicking effect. And that wicking effect is if that cold is exposed, it's not going to dry as it should properly, and it might do the opposite and not be as beneficial. So it's not the nicest looking per se aesthetically. Yeah, it should cover the white on the around and so on. So I'm going to maybe just pull the microphone back a little bit. Thank you. Now, this person, of course, doesn't want to walk around at their job like this or whatever, the sock on, their little tail. But what you could do, maybe you could put a turtleneck on like I have today, or cover it up, or I could even pull it up. I mean, if I was desperate and wasn't infecting anybody and at work that way. Or you can use it overnight and sleep with it. In the morning, you're going to take it off, and if you did it properly, it's going to be bone dry. Okay, just bone dry. And then you take that off, put it under cool water, and just, do a little bit of cool on your neck. But I'll tell you, it aborts a sore throat. It's amazing. In addition, like if you're sucking on garlic, don't cut your garlic, but leave it whole. Or if you suck on like charcoal tablets, those are another good way of helping the sore throat. Okay, and then of course you want to always think about when these remedies, you want to hit them locally and you want to hit them systemically. What I mean by that, like let's say I get a cold, we'll do a hot and cold shower, but maybe I've got a local symptom of the sore throat. So I'm going to do something like this, or sucking on the garlic or the charcoal that's going to help that, okay? But you, garlic clove, a clove of garlic. Garlic candy? I've never heard such a thing. How do you suck on the charcoal? There's 3 forms of charcoal. They come in either a capsule, or they come in tablets that are made with starch component, or they come in powder. So you're going to buy the tablets and just stick them in the, between your cheek and your teeth and let them dissolve on their own. And that's one of the great remedies for a sore throat. Okay, Cheyenne, you all healed. She says she's all taken care of. No more sore throat. Yeah, for a little bit. I'm so sticky, I can't even get it off here. Thank you so much. Okay. So you give it just once she had gotten that off and it's bone dry, then she's just rubbing it with that cool water. Thank you. Yes. Say it again. Yes, thank you. And because you do want to abort these things, is the sooner that you hit these things and the harder, the better. Like I know when I got this viral or thing the week before, I was really with a sore throat. So I went home and I did what we call a fever therapy. Now, fever therapy is where you get in a hot tub of water. I went up to like 110, I think, 106. And I sweated myself for like 20 minutes. That way you're bringing out more white blood cells. Then I got the Russian drink. What I mean by that, Russian penicillin, I took 4 cloves of garlic, the juice of 2 lemons, blended it really well, and added another 3 cups of water. And I drank that for my water intake. I also got, you can see I don't like a cold. I got grapefruit seed extract, and I wanted to get back to work too. And I took 8 drops of the grapefruit seed extract in all my water. So I drank that water, did the fever therapy, the Russian penicillin, and then started to take things like echinacea or what was the other thing? I took oregano oil, and he suggested I take oregano oil in capsules. That's very potent. So it's good, like I said, have a repertoire in your little box at home where you can take, because when you get sick, number one, you don't got a lot of energy or maybe desire to do it, and if it's not convenient, it's less likely that you're going to do it. Yes.
Less complicated is these treatments are good, but like I said, that oil of oregano, either a capsule or liquid in your water, and garlic, those 2 things will cure this flu or whatever this thing is going around, because it happened to me, and in less than a week, I was better. And that was a lot of the garlic and the oil of oregano. Excellent.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, now another item, and I'm sure we can touch on these things more. Yes. Yes. Earaches. Thank you. There are several things, but I want to look and see if you have an otoscope or I want to see, is that person's ear clogged with the wax? If it is, maybe work for a few days, put oil in there and get that out of there. Because that can cause a problem for people. Secondarily, you can put like a slice of onion that you've heated in not a slice, but a half of an onion, where you have heated it in the oven like 125 degrees for maybe 20 minutes. And so it's not hot. And then that can be applied straight onto the person's ear, and they can keep it on all night long. Another one that's very good for earache is garlic oil, where like a few drops of garlic oil in there, and you just put a little plunget of cotton and have that soothes the ear. Now, this is just off of the, what's the word? Not off the cuff, but anyways, this is a personal one. I don't recommend it for everybody, but the lady, Sarah Ferreira, in our hydrotherapy department, because I have a history of earaches ever since I got a viral infection that went to my ears. So I have very sensitivity when air comes, like I'm in a car, I can't have air straight on my ear and so on. But she says take a Q-tip dip it in eucalyptus oil and put that in the ear. And that does help me too. So those are the few ones, and maybe others have some other.
What about with a child? Is there sometimes taking them off dairy? Does that help? The kids that get regular earring?
Again, you want to, I'm glad that Robert said that, because you want to look at the cause. You know, is it from children that are drinking milk, these other mucus buildup and so on? We know, we've always heard around the children, you know, the drainage and so on, so we want to look at that. Thank you. What will? Oh, high sugar intake, cheese. Yes, thank you. Okay, so let's go back to, I guess we covered the heating compress. Let's look on the back side of the handouts. This is revulsive fomentation. Now, you saw the picture of the more involved one for people with pneumonia and so on, and it's good to be with a person to do that. Like, there was a sister in Collegedale, and she called me out, and I wasn't able to be directly because I knew I would be with patients and expose myself and maybe get sick and so on. So I instructed her caregivers who were, you know, had the mask and all that kind of stuff. And they did it, and, you know, just with some simple instruction. So basically, it's nice if you have what we call wool wraps. Like if you go to an army store, if they have such thing anymore, but you could buy, like at a secondhand store, a wool blanket, okay? And you cut it up in about this size of a square, okay? Yeah, that's probably good. And then you can make your own home fomentations, although they don't hold the heat as well, by doing this. Okay, you just take a towel, and you can put it into thirds. Okay, so you would put it into thirds, and if you want to use it as a permanent item, you could sew it if you have access to a sewing machine. So you've got like 3 good layers here. You know, the real sturdy fomentations are, you know, made with better material and, you know, hold up for years. We have fomentations in our department that have been there for years, okay? But this is that. So then you dampen it. You know, in the old days, they would just dip it in the hot water, wring it out. But you, with a microwave, okay, you can put it in a bag. So you can take this, moistened now, it's not dripping wet, and you're putting it in the bag, and you're putting it in the microwave for 5 to 7 minutes, depending on the power of your microwave. Now you have to be very careful when you take it out. Okay, now like Annie, she had a sickness, and I showed her neighbor how to do this, and then she was able to come up every day and to help her. I guess she had some back. She had a compression fracture, so we want to get circulation in that area. So we took this, and you have to use a tongs, something, because when you open that bag, the steam's going to come out. You don't want to burn yourself, okay? And you're taking that out, and ideally, again, if it's in a wool wrap, it's going to retain the heat. If you put it in another towel, it gets wet pretty fast, okay? So I would take that out of there, and in the case of the wool wrap or another towel, you have that down on your table, okay? And you're putting that in that, and depending on what size that you want, you know, for that area, whether it's the chest, whether it's your abdomen, whether it's your back, and so on. Then you're wrapping that, and you're carrying it to and you fold it, you've got the heat stayed in there. You bring it on the person. Now, you're not going to put it directly on there because it's quite hot. And even through here, it's going to get quite hot. So you put it, you know, like 3 or whatever layers of towels that will help that person feel a pretty good amount of heat. And that should stay hot for 3 to 5 minutes on that person. And in the meantime, you're getting another one of those, and you can see why it's a little bit gymnastics. You're putting it in the microwave, you're letting that 5 to 7 minutes. You're taking this now, and then when the person's done that 3 to 5 minutes or it's cooling, you're going to take a tea towel, or in the case of the size of the area, you're going to put it on there, and you're going to rub them for 30 seconds. Okay, what I like to do is I rub them for 15 seconds, and it gets a little warmer, and I flip it. and do another 15 seconds of rubbing them, okay? So not only is the cool, it's the hot, cold application that gives such good response for the person, okay? And then by that time, you can even lay it on the person, run to the microwave, come back, dry them off, and put the new application on. But you see how you have to have a few already. Whereas if you have these in a canning kettle and you've put like 3 or 4, you have all of them already at one point. But sometimes we don't have availability to do these things. Now, my young people, they were going to remind me, Zion, and to tell you a story. I remembered, surprisingly enough. But anyways, I was in the West Indies as a missionary, and again, these things were new to me. And, you know, I hadn't built up a repertoire as the lady of the home that I was with. She was quite versed in hydrotherapy and used it on their children and so on. So I went up to this village, and there was a woman, her husband was a drunkard, and used up all the money. They were trying to build a block house, but they just had the bottom of the block house. She had these, I think, 5 or 6 kids. And she was just, she was having some real abdominal distress. And I thought, okay, you know, the Holy Spirit brought to my mind, do this fomentation on her, you know. Well, guess what we had? We didn't have the conveniences like, she didn't have any towels in her house. She didn't have any water, running water hardly. And so what they do down there is that, you know, they don't have any mattress pads, that at least she didn't, she was a poor lady. She used old clothes for mattress pad. So I thought, well, that's what we got to use. It's got to be adaptable. So I'd pull all these old clothes, dampen them down with the water that she had in a bowl or whatever, and she just had a coal pot, and those coal pots is what they cook on. So we had a container or what you call a pot, okay, and we just put those in there, and I put a few in there. And these children, they were like watching my every move. I prayed with this lady, and then they said, I think there were 5 or 6 that were surrounding me. They said, can we do that on my mommy? And I said, sure. So I showed them how to do it, and they carried the fomentations on there and put their mom. Probably this lady was so tired of taking all these kids, and then to have her children minister to her, she's like, after like the 3rd or 4th, I'm done. It's healed. She goes, I have no problem. But I thought, it's more than just the treatment per se, because one of our brothers said, you can apply this to any person, even if they're not praying, and you're going to see effects. But it's the total picture. It's, just that she had her children minister to her, and who knows that was a blessing for them, to help their mom, and who knows how far that can go, right? Yeah.
Sometimes a lot of our guests, and when you do that, people feel loved and cared for, and the mind and the body works together. And then the other thing that we pray that God add supernatural results, like you said earlier, multiplication.
Thank you.
Let me just add the compression fracture and the other fractures that I have because of the compression fracture. That hot and cold treatment and essential oils, I think really healed it pretty well, because I didn't have surgery or the cement things or anything. But herbs, taking herbs, essential oils, and these treatments, yeah.
Thank you, Robert. So I think that's, now we'll open it up for questions. Well, actually, we were going to, if we had time, we were going to show you I think I've covered everything, right? Fomentations, the heating compress. Oh, we didn't talk about contrast bath, okay? We talked about the contrast shower, 3 minutes and 1 minute or a modified one. But you can do contrast bath where you have the hot water in one and the cold in another. And this works very effectively for people, let's say they initially had a sprain and you're putting that ice 24, 48 hours. Now you can take the next step and go to these other contrast baths, like 1 minute or 3 minutes to 30 seconds of cool, and that way you're going to get further healing because you're increasing the circulation to that area. So good to just keep certain basins in your home, or like she said, a 5-gallon bucket, or some of these other things that you can use. Yeah, so I think that was it. And that way we were just going to open it for questions. And what we can do then is do a little massage, chair massage, and then we're going to pair up with each other and give each other a massage. How does that sound? Yes. Oh, sorry. Yes, it's not, we're not able to. Yeah, I don't know if Jill or Annie can talk with you further when we, disperse the class. Thank you. Yes. Oh, a thermophore. Okay, the sister was saying a thermophore. That is a moist heating pad. Battle Creek produces them. You can get them, I believe, through Amazon or other places. But that's a good one to have in the home because that's an alternative to the fomentation. We know if you don't, I've seen people that couldn't really maneuver and they had to be by themselves doing these treatments, is to do like the thermophore, like even when they're in the bed, and then put cool on themselves and do it like 3 times. And so it's very, very effective. And I have a thermophore and would encourage other people to get one too. Okay, any other questions? So I would, you'll be surprised. You might have, you will have opportunities for yourself or for others this week to put it into practice, and don't be shy. It's just doing it and learning, They're simple things, but a lot of times, many times when we do cooking schools with guests, we can show them, but when they really get in there and do it is when, you'll learn and you'll feel more confident and helped, Oh, she needs a massage now. Yeah.
One of the reasons why this training is so good to get is sometimes you might need it for yourself. I would have never thought I would ever get sick when I was getting my training. And my sister got training at Uchee Pines, and she helped me a lot. And so I moved back to my parents, she moved back, and she helped me a lot. And so sometimes when I was getting training, I'm thinking, oh, I'm going to help strangers somewhere around the world as a missionary. But we have opportunities to practice it on ourselves and with our own family.
Thank you, Robert. Okay, so I'm going to do a little demonstration on Annie, and I won't do exactly as it states here. You can look at this one and do a little bit different massage, but I'll show you the routine that I have been given, and then what we can do is pair up, and we can do a quick little massage on each other. Does that sound okay? Okay, so it might be a little awkward. I might ask this brother to take away all this stuff. Oh, I don't want to work on your back because of no, I'm a little. She's got a compression fracture, or I did, and I wasn't really. Okay, so you can have the person go against the table, and in Annie's case, I might have her do that. Can everybody see well enough as I'm doing this? I'll try to make it clear. So, of course, you don't have to have them take off their shirt or anything like that. You can just do it over the clothing. Robert, can you help us here? So Annie's going to just put her arms up against the table and bend so you can get to the person. So I like to start, and it's very difficult. I'm going to have to put you sideways, Annie. I don't know. No. Maybe against
Turn
another
yourself.
chair.
No, this could work. Like, stand up and just sit like this. Can you do that? And then she has access to your back. Okay.
Okay. So you just have them go down there. Now, oh my, that's not going to work.
You wanted another table? Oh, yeah. Or we can do a smaller table. She doesn't want her back turned to everyone.
Oh.
We didn't think this all the way through. You can tell.
Yeah. Okay. Oh, okay, that works. Can do this way,
No, that way. This
and
way.
then she
Yeah.
sits facing that way, and then you do.
Thanks.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, okay. We all need. It's a whole team. There.
So she's going to just bend down like that. So you're coming up, what we call this is petrissage, okay? And you're coming down, it's nice, relaxing. You can go over the hip area, come back up again with your hands. Is that too hard? You always want to ask them, of course you pray beforehand, the Lord bless the things, and then, you ask them, can I be more firm? You want me to be softer or whatever, okay? So, and then you're coming down, okay. So you're doing this like 3 times over that area, what we call petrissage. Then what we do is, I like to warm up the muscle, okay? So you're warming that muscle up. And maybe as we go through this, you can voice it out after I say it, okay? And it will stick in your brain more. And then I'm going to go up the other side. So I'm what? I'm warming the muscle, okay? And what's this movement? Petrissage, okay? And you're coming down. It's between each of these things, you're doing what we call this petrissage up over the area, okay? Of course, when you can do it right on the skin, it's nicer. The skin to skin and with your oils and stuff. And then you're coming down. Okay, and then what we do is we start kneading. Okay, everybody know how to knead bread. Okay, but you're not pinching the person. Okay, you're grabbing the skin, and you're working down. Now, you don't want to keep going across the spine. That's a little irritating to the central nervous system. And then you're going, and you're doing what? You're kneading. Okay, so you're picking up this flesh, and you're pulling it sort of back and forth. Okay, and then you're going to go to the other side, and you can do this depending on the amount of time you have with the person or your energy or whatever, and you just modify it. Okay, and then let's say we did, then we're going to go back to that what? It's very soothing around the shoulders, and you come around the hip area, and you go back up. Is that nice? Okay. Okay. And then what we have, you can start from the lower part of the spine. You can kneel or do it like that. And what would you call this? I don't even know. What's that? It's been so many years. Okay. Okay. So I'm going. What's that? Okay. Very good. All right. And then I'm coming back up 3 times. I do this. Up there, and if you get it, you feel like a knot area, real tight. A lot of times, workers that are desk workers, they'll be tight up here. You can really press on it and hold it, for about 10 seconds, and then release it. Or you can work in the area a little bit more. And the same way with the kneading. Okay. So then we go. Is that too much, Annie? Okay. All right. So let's say I've done this 3 times. I'm back up there. And come back down again. You're always starting back up. All right. And then you go what? Back to your petrissage. You work the area around the hip. Come again. And then you can go what we call raking. Okay? Raking over the area. And you can even do pulls, too much. Is that too tight on you, Annie? Okay. It's raking in over on this side. And then you go back to your petrissage. And even if you don't remember this all, don't worry. If you're just rubbing someone's back here today, they'll be glad. Okay. Now, I don't know, and I want to do this on Annie, but generally what you finish off with is you do what we call hacking. Okay? Okay. So I could do a hacking where I'm hitting, I'm flicking my wrist. Yeah, right. Okay, and I'm cupping. Cupping is used for, here you go. Okay. And then you go again, you finish with your petrissage, and you're coming up. And then to finish off, the finishing touch, you just sort of pull your hands down the line. Okay, now.
No wonder the cat's like that.
Now I've got Jill and Robert and Larry here. They can sort of rotate among you, but why don't you pair up now with somebody, husband, wife, girlfriend, boyfriends, whatever, and we'll just do this together, okay? So you don't have to worry about remembering everything. I'll just voice it out as we're doing it. Robert, I guess we'll have to stay here. Okay, so pair up with each other, or if, Whoever wants to do whatever. Yeah. No, I want you to sit in the chairs. It's a chair massage. Oh, yeah. The one who's giving the massage, stand up.
So the ones that's given the massage will stand, and sometimes you might even want to stand like this sometimes. Do you want to do that? Because you want to brace yourself. You don't want to hurt your back. So think about your posture, that you can have strength, but you're not injuring or hurting yourself.
Okay, is the rest going to be observers? Okay. All right, so let's do it again. So for who's ever in a position, let's start now together. They're so ambitious. They're moving ahead. No, that's good. Okay, so we're going to first start with the petrissage. Let's go up 3 times, around the shoulder, down around the hips, back up around the shoulders, down and around the hips, back up around the shoulders. That's it. Good. Next, we're going to warm the muscle. We rub it. Okay. Nice and rub it. We're warming it up 3 times up and down to one side of the spine. Go to the other side now. Warm it up. Okay. 3 times. 2, 3. Okay, back to your petrissage. Go around the shoulders now. Down around the hips. Up on the shoulders. Down around the hips. Up on the shoulders. Down around the hips. Good. All right, now we go to the kneading. Okay? So grab the shoulders and go down the side. Grab that flesh. Down on the hips, come back up again. Let's do like 3 on each side. You're sort of pulling that with your, there you go, good. All right, up again. Go to the other side of the spine. Okay, how are you participants feeling? Good? Okay. All right, 3 times now, up and down. Now let's go to the petrissage. Let's go back up. Okay, up, around the shoulder, down around the hip, up again, around the shoulders, down around the hip, up again, around the shoulders, down on the hips. Okay, now you at the bottom, you can start to take your fingers and make circular movements. And let's go up the spine on both sides. Too hard, Annie? Okay. And you get to a tight area, you can work that a little bit more. Okay. Down, come down again. And we're going to go 2nd time up there. I'm just going to simulate that, Annie. All the way up to the top of the shoulders again. Okay. Down you come. Over across the hips, and then do the same up from the bottom of the spine, up to the top. Okay, come back to your petrissage, your nice long stroke, around the hip, up to the shoulders again, down again, and one more time, 3 times. Okay? Now we talked about the raking across the spine. Okay? We can just do that, modify it 3 times. You can pull the ribs a little bit with your hands spanned out. And the other side. Okay, now we're going to go up the spine again, that petrissage. Around the shoulders, down on the hips. Around the shoulders, down on the hips. Around the shoulders and down on the hips. And then we finish off with what? Our hacking. Okay. 3 times up and down. Okay, and then the other side. 1, go up and down. 2, and 3. And then you can go to the cupping, where you cup it. That's it. And then you just stroke the person. There. Kitty, kitty, kitty. Okay, very good. And you can do what we call like a rain kind of drop movement. Okay, now we won't have the participants do the flip side because we've got all these spectators, and that's going to draw it out a little bit long. Thank you. Did that feel good for those that were that got the massage? Okay. All right. Very good. Okay. Is there any other questions? No? Okay. Brother Larry, would you like to come and lead out or give any direction, or one of the leaders from the church? Oh, okay. Sure. Maybe I could look to you both. This is the end of the session. If we don't have any other questions or questions or answers. What? Yeah. So the next step would be prayer. We're going to serve. Okay. So we're going to food. Okay. Thank you. All right. You want me to have prayer? The blessing on the food? Okay. I guess we're going to clear everything off, or yeah. All right. And if you have any questions for any of us, I encourage you again, take these online courses. If they're not through Wildwood, Light, Lay Institute of Global Health Training has a good section on hydrotherapy, and you can take pods. You don't have to just take the whole course. You can take sections, like on the herbs or on hydrotherapy. And there's other ministries that have these too. So I'd encourage you, the main thing though, get out there and just do it on yourself or other people, okay?
We really appreciate you folks coming to be with us, to help us. And so if any of you would be inclined, we're going to have an offering plate out there on the pew as you would maybe finish and head home later. If you wanted to leave an offering, you're more than welcome to do that. Okay?
It was probably mentioned earlier, but we have brochures here from Wildwood. We also have our program on the virtual where people can do it in their own home. And we have also the lifestyle, course that is mentioned there. So if you need any of that information, we have it there. Thank you.
Yes, and we also have, I know some of you will probably see them at a different time, but we also have the cookbooks that are also prepared by Miss Karen. I know you guys are going to have her next month, but if you want to, get it in advance. We brought some with us, so they're $20. So if you're interested, as well as the brochures. Yes.
Let's pray. Father, our loving Father, you desire so much more than we understand, but we understand more now. Please be with us. Let our lives witness of your love. Bless our food here as we share it together. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Everyone is invited to stay for lunch. We didn't mention that, but everyone's invited to stay.